Hi everyone, welcome back to the Colour Cave. It's Jem here. I just wanted to stick in a quick comment. I filmed this after I filmed the actual video, and I just wanted to add in a few comments that will make sense as you watch the video. I deliberately didn't go and seek out the tutorial for this before I started painting. I'm a person that likes to kind of learn myself and go on an adventure and figure things out on my own. I did afterwards go onto the website to check out the tutorial, and it wasn't actually available. When you click on the link, it just says coming soon. So I wanted to make you aware of that before you start watching. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get to top down view and we can get going. I have a very special video for you today, and this is courtesy of one of our serial commenters, Daria. Daria actually sent me this as a birthday present, and I can honestly say it's the nicest and most thoughtful birthday present I've had. And this is a subscription box from the US called Let's Make Art, and it's not something that I would have chosen for myself, and it's purely based on the cost of this box. This is a box with a difference though, and I'm actually going to do one of the projects today, but I just wanted to give you a quick overview of this in case it's something that you might be interested in. The company themselves, they do different types of boxes. They do a watercolour box, a hand lettering box, and an art journaling box, so you can specifically pick a discipline that you are interested in. This box runs at 45 US dollars a month, so 50 odd British pounds, but there's shipping on top of that as well, so it is an expensive box, but it shows, and I just want to show you what's inside this before I start taking it to pieces and start doing the project. As you can see, it's a very pretty box. I have had a dirty great big customs envelope stuck on the front of mine because Daria did have it shipped out to me, which is just lovely. Honestly, Daria, I want to thank you so much for this because this really made me happy. So the inside of the box is nice as well. You've got things like this in the lid, which is just lovely, and you have this little card here. So there's some social media type links and that sort of thing, and then inside it tells you how it works, so it explains a little bit about what's inside the box, but there also is a project for every week of the month, so you've got 4 separate projects that you can do, and you can pick and choose, or you can do all of them, and they are by a specific artist as well. And the thing I like about this the most is that they're in 4 separate packets. If I just turn these over, and you can see what the finished product is going to look like by the original artist, but there is step-by-step instructions inside each of these little packages, and it tells you what paint colours they recommend and also which brushes. There's free tutorials as well, so you can go on to the website, and I do believe that they're on YouTube as well, and you can watch them if you learn better that way. So this really is a box to help guide you through these projects and produce some really nice art, and I just think it's a wonderful idea. Now, a watercolour box like this is perfect for me because I am not a seasoned watercolourist at all, and it's something I could definitely do with developing my skills on. And I just think it's such a thoughtful thing because Daria has obviously been watching along with all the watercolour videos and thought that I might like this. The actual projects themselves are absolutely gorgeous. There's one there with multicoloured carrots, painting in watercolour white animals, which is not the easiest thing to do, and some foliage, which is always good. I quite like foliage. And there's simpler projects as well, like these eggs, so there's lots to choose from. And in addition to that, they do give you, it says on here, the good stuff, and in brackets obviously it's paint. So take this out as well, and they've included a Pigma Micron pen as well, which is really nice. I use these all the time, so that will get put to good use. And we have the Dandelion Paint Company paint, and I'm assuming that is their own brand of paint, and it comes in these little dropper bottles as well, which is really nice. So we've got 5 colours plus this pen. The last thing that comes in this box, which I just think is absolutely lovely, and I think, as far as I know, it's something they do every month, they include a little bit about a person, and this is about Loretta May Chamberlain, who after she turned 100 started wearing her pearls every day so she looked her best in case something happened. So there's like a lovely little story, and she liked to sew and paint and things like that. So what they have done is they've put a blank postcard in here, and it has the address of her family on it, and what they want you to do is they want you to make a piece of art in the postcard and then post it to the family, and it's just about sort of spreading the love in the community. Now there is a prepaid stamp on this, and it's a US stamp. You can stick this straight in a letterbox and it will go to the family of this lady, and I just think it's a lovely way to spread some joy and remember people. So I think that is just absolutely gorgeous. I really, really do. In addition to that, there is a sheet of graphite paper in here. Now that's very important, and it's another reason why I think this is an absolutely spectacular box. It doesn't matter what level of art you have or what skill level you have, you can take these at any level and paint these, and I'm going to show you. The one that I want to do today is the duck, because it's something I'm very curious about and it's something that I've not tried with watercolour. So here we have, you can see there is an outline here on this particular sheet of paper. So this is just on ordinary copy paper, but what you can do is you can take this graphite paper and you can transfer the image onto this high quality watercolour paper. So if you are not interested in drawing, or you feel that some of the projects are a wee bit out of your skill range, you can directly transfer that onto the watercolour paper and still participate in the watercolour section without any hassle. I think that is really, really thoughtful, and I also think it's a great way for it to be an accessible box for everyone. And I'm always saying that I am not a professional artist. Art is there to be enjoyed no matter what your skill level or how far along in your art journey you are, and the fact that they are making these projects accessible to everyone by doing something as small as this, I just think it's amazing. And you have the original artwork as it should be. So that's kind of like your reference image, if you like. And then you have the step-by-step tutorial, and there is not too many steps, it has to be said, but if you want to watch this in more detail, they've got the link right down at the bottom there for the video so you can get stuck in. So I just think this is absolutely wonderful, and I can't thank you enough again, Daria. I'm absolutely overjoyed. But I have to say, for the first time in a long time, you guys know that I go through a lot of subscription boxes, and I try to have a balanced opinion of them, but I'm also honest, and I am very, very, very impressed with this subscription box, and well, seeing it's the money that it is. So the only thing that's kind of left to test out that would maybe sway me or persuade me otherwise is testing out these paints and finding that they're maybe not particularly high quality. I do not foresee that happening, I really don't, and there's quite a lot on the Let's Make Art website about them only carrying the products that they actually use. So it's not a case of they've struck up brand deals with some of the art supply companies. It's real artists that paint, and it's the stuff that they use. So I'm really excited about this, and I hope you guys are excited too. So I'm just going to pack all this up and we can head over to a painty type setup, and we're going to give this a go and see how we get on. Righty-ho, so I have the recommended brush sizes here. I've got a number 6 round, which is the Milan brush that I'm quite in favour of at the moment, and I've got a sea white number 2 round as well. I have got 2 pots of water, one clean for mixing and one to clean my brush in. As well as that, I've always got a pipette handy. I just find it's a useful thing when you're trying to mix colours, and a rag to wipe my brush on. Now, one thing about these watercolours is I've never used them in like dropper bottles, and I've obviously never used this brand before, so I just wanted to test them out to see how they behave, you know, so that I've got a bit of a feel for them before we actually start painting with them. So these are the colours that we're using, so it's 4 out of the 5 colours that came in the kit. So I just want to grab them. I've just dampened my brush a little bit, and I'm just going to pick some of this up and see what happens. So they are really vibrant. They feel quite inky, to be honest. So that's quite an interesting fact in itself. But now, if I pick up some more water, you can see that that's spreading about quite nicely. So the blue is very, very blue. They seem very pigmented and very concentrated. And I don't know how much of these I should be watering down as I go. Now my brush has still got a bit of blue on it, but look at that, that's nice. This paint feels lovely, and look at the purple it's creating. Oh, that's nice. Gem's in love. Ooh, so you really don't need a lot of this paint at all. In fact, I've probably put out too much. You can see I've not even filled the bottom of this palette. I've just put a little squish in, and it seems to be going a long way. So this burnt orange is sort of venturing into brown. It's very easy to control. I sound surprised when I say that. I don't mean that the way I said, you know, I'm not setting myself up for failure here, but you know, I'm just very curious, and I've tried quite a lot of watercolours now, and it's just a case of nothing surprises me anymore. But look at that, that's lovely. These colours are really nice, even just on their own. Okay, so nice watercolour, do not need a lot. As I say, I've probably got way too much there. In fact, I don't think I know I've got way too much there, but now that I know that, that'll be good for projects going forward. So I suppose that's kind of a swatch really, there's funkiness going on here. So now I know what to expect a little bit more in terms of the paint itself, which is great. Now when it comes to starting the actual project, I am not going to use the graphite paper. I am just going to draw this little duck freehand, or rather big duck. It's good actually, they give you 2 sheets of watercolour paper per project, so if you do find you maybe need a practice run, it's really nice that they're giving you that opportunity and that leeway. Hopefully, hopefully we won't need it. I am not used to working on this size though, so this is going to be quite interesting for me. Now I've got an F grade pencil here and my kneaded eraser, because once I've sketched this out I'm going to lighten up the line work with the kneaded eraser as much as possible before we get started. So this is not going to be an identical copy obviously, but I'm going to do my best to get it as accurate as possible, or at least something that remotely resembles a duck would be good. So we'll just have a quick sketching lesson while we're here, why not? The first thing you want to do is block in your basic shapes, and the way to do that is to stick with ellipses and basic geometric shapes like triangles. And when you're doing this as well, it pays to try and be as light as possible. And I think I'm actually too far this way, and I can see that now, so very lightly. Now because I've only been working lightly, it's really easy for me to take away these lines without worrying about affecting the integrity of the paper. I say very rough to begin with, it doesn't have to be anything spectacular. So we've got sort of an oblong shape here, and then we're kind of triangular lines here where the duck's shoulders are, and then this is just really one dirty great big oval. Maybe comes down a bit more at an angle there. Shorten that beak up a little bit. And then we've got some legs. Imagine that. So I'm just putting them in as basically 2 rectangles, and then this sort of webbed part at the bottom, and exactly the same on the other leg. Now one thing I am paying attention to is the placement of the feet here. One is slightly behind the other, so that's quite an important feature, so that your duck isn't going to look lopsided. And that's it. It really is a perspective thing more than anything else, and it's one of those aspects of sketching that I struggle a little bit more with than others. But its feet are almost sitting in at an angle, so that's something that we're just trying to be observant and pay attention to, because it is quite an important feature. I kind of want to bring this up round a bit now. Okay, so I've kind of got the basic shape here. I'm quite happy with that. My duck looks as if he's going to be quite a fat duck, but that's okay also. So now we want to start penciling in some of the finer details, and I think I'm going to start at the bottom here. So we've got a little bit of a line here. And just before I do that, I'm going to take away my errant lines. So when I was drawing my ellipses there, obviously it took me a couple of rotations to get the line that I wanted, so just so I don't confuse myself, number one, when I'm painting, but when I start to lighten up these lines to begin the painting, I don't want to get confused and end up taking away the wrong ones. So if I start down here at these feet, we've got this here, and this kind of curves down a bit, and then we've got this back toe here, a little claw, and then we've got the kind of webby bits in between. The webby bits, they're webs, that's what they are. Come on, Gem. Okay, I'll take this line down. That was a bit of a wrong angle there. And you can see just the sketch itself is very rudimentary, and it's not going to be anything complicated, just for the fact that you're going to be doing most of the work with the paint. So you don't have to be, you know, a really accomplished artist to even try and sketch this out yourself. If you have a basic grasp of you know, your spatial awareness in terms of drawing, you'll probably find that you'll make a reasonably good job of sketching this out yourself. So if you are a, you know, I wouldn't say an absolute novice, but if you are a newer artist, don't be scared to try and sketch it out, and if it doesn't work out, that's okay, you can erase it. But this is a great way to learn how to do these things without it actually really affecting the end point of your drawing. There's nothing to say that you can't give it a go, and you don't actually have to paint the one that you've sketched out, but this in itself is a really good exercise. And I've heard lots of people say as well that, oh, they don't draw, they're just this leg comes too high up as well. They just like to paint, they don't draw. If you want to underpin any sort of decent artwork, drawing is like a staple skill, and it's in your interests to learn, because it's only going to help your painting, especially say if you're going to do things this way. Now, granted, when I'm painting, I tend to like to paint freehand. I very rarely now do I put a pencil outline in. Unless it's maybe something I haven't drawn before, you know, I'm maybe not familiar with the shapes and the lines. So I'm just paying attention now to this curvature here. Got kind of flatter bit there and then out to a peak. And then we're coming down to our beak here, so there's a little curve in there. Now I don't know how many of these details I really want penciled, and I suppose the eye is probably the most important one. So let's pop that little eyeball in. Now I can see just from putting that eye in that the shape of the head here is too flat, so I'm going to bring this up a little bit. There we go, that's better. And then there seems to be like a boundary line here, which I'm assuming would be the slightly different colouring underneath. I've got a couple of squares. Again, I don't think these are vitally important, but I will at least make an indication of them. Okay, I am quite happy with that sketch, that'll do for me. So time to lighten it up and then we can get on with some painting. Okay, so step one was start with the outline. Ta-da! Using burnt orange and deep yellow, paint the beak. Mix all the colours together to get a black colour and paint the eyes and nostril. So I'm going to use the photograph here that has been provided for us by Sarah, who's the artist. The artist is Sarah Cray. So we want to be quite observant here and look at what's in the photograph to help us along with the instructions that have been written. I'm just moving this out the way because it's casting a shadow. Okay, so we're going to start with this really small brush. We're going to start with our number 2. Seeing as we're starting with this beak, and I'm going to start with a tiny little bit of this yellow. I think this wants to be a bit softer, so I've just added a little bit of water there. I'll soften that out a wee bit. And there's a paler part around the nostril, so I'm trying to avoid the nostril. So one of the things I'm noticing straight away, that although this is a step by step, they're basically only telling you the colours that you should be using, and there's very little instruction on the actual techniques, whether you should be going onto the paper dry or wet, or, you know, there's not a lot there. So maybe they are expecting some level of competency. I'm maybe going to switch from bigger brush, and it doesn't tell you when you should be using which brush, although they say at the start there are, you know, they recommend that there's the two different brushes. They don't actually tell you at what point you should be using each one. Again, this is darker down here. And there's kind of like a paler part in the middle here. So there's no real explanation of techniques or anything. It's just more of which colour to put where. Okay, I'm going to leave that to dry. Now it does say to mix the colours. So I'll use my number 6 round. Now in situations like this, I would be really tempted to just go and get black out of one of my other sets, but we're doing this by the instructions, as per the instructions. Does that look like a nostril to you? And they've also painted in the eye and they've left a highlight. Now they make no mention of this at all, and quite frankly, I wouldn't be comfortable doing it with this particular paintbrush, I'll be honest. That is probably my own inadequacies though. I have this teeny tiny brush and this is a 0, and I am much more comfortable using this. Not speaking because trying to concentrate. And this colour is definitely nowhere near as dark as the paint in the reference images, but it's still pretty dark. There we go. Instantly happy because our creature has an eyeball, which is a very important part of making them look like a creature. So, does it look like a duck yet? Right, step 2, mixing together burnt orange, fuchsia and Tahoe. Paint the shadows on the neck and face. Remember to use a light value. So they're not even going into specifics as to how you should be mixing. And if I have a look really closely at these instructions, this to me looks like a wet on wet technique under the neck here. So that this line here, this is obviously where they've stopped this escapade. And how they've managed to get the colours on the head, I don't know, because it's not been by mixing these. So I'm going to do this neck part first, and I'm just going to wet the entire neck area. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make really watered down versions. That's just a shot. Make really watered down versions of these colours and take just a tiny speck and see if I can emulate what's going on under here. So I'm more or less just like staining the paper. But this is quite an interesting technique in terms of painting animals that are white, because obviously they are not going to look like much on the paper unless you give them some colour. So it's just really diluted versions of said colours. So this, I think, really realistically, if you are a new artist, then watching the video would probably be a good idea. Because the other thing, I mean, I'm quite curious to see how this dries. And this to me looks like a very washed out version of this. And there's a lot more pink under the neck here. And the dominating colour is definitely pink. And again, the tiniest hint of blue just in here. Maybe a little bit more pink. While this is still a little bit damp, I'm just putting in, I've mixed a bit of the blue and the purple, the blue and the pink together to make purple. And I'm just adding that in the darker areas. Kind of want some of that in there as well, I think. Okay, so I think I'm done with step 3. Step 4, using that same colour mixture, paint the shadows on the bottom of the duck's body. So we're coming down here now. So I think I'll start with this purple this time. And then we're going to bring that up and round. Now see, when I read the instructions there, it made out as if you were supposed to mix those 3 colours together and use that entire mixture to, you know, to paint one area. But that is not what it looks like in the reference image. And I think I am sticking with the method that I am using. It would be quite interesting to go back and watch the video, and I think that they should indicate to people that you should watch the video. It's not a case of, you know, you can use what's sent in the box with, you know, the actual supplies, and you'll be able to go off and run in and have the tutorial just off the card. I don't agree with that at all. That might just be me, and again, it might just be down to a level of confidence and also a skill level as well. But again, being a person, I don't really like being handheld when I'm doing things like this. I like to find my own way because I think that I'll learn more, and anything I do learn seems to stick a bit better if I do this kind of thing. And you know, there's people that are saying, oh, you should really have done this before you tried it and all the rest of it. It's a bit like reading you know, it's like reading theory and then having to put it into practice. I get on much better. You can sit me down and make me, you know, look at things for long and weary, but it's only really going to sink in and have a practical implication when I've made a mistake, you know, and I've had a real good try at it on my own. I've always been that person, and I will probably always be that person. So if this is infuriating any of you, then I am terribly sorry. I'm kind of not sorry. Chucking my pen away now. Okay, paint the feet using burnt orange, deep yellow and a bit of fuchsia. Again, very vague description here. I'm going to have to wait for some of this to dry before I do that. So I'm going to start with the yellow here and just put in this sort of base layer. Maybe start to intensify a little bit of colour here. Oh, that is way too much. Way too much paint. Nearly had me an accident there. And we'll go in with some of this orange. Don't know if that's still a bit damp. I'll need to wait till that dries off a little bit more. You know, this is quite sort of deep. And then they've got a few little lines here and there. Yeah.
What that one?
That's okay though, I can cut that bit out.
Where's your cup?
I think it's in the kitchen, Mum.
Tea?
Yeah, please, if you don't mind. I just stopped there because Mama Jem came in and asked me if I wanted a cup of tea. To which, of course, you all know the answer is always yes. So there's some definition of the claws here down the bottom. I don't know if that's what you call them on ducks, but yeah. And down this side there is this very defined line. And I'm also going to add in a little bit of this kind of inky sepia colour. Even though it doesn't tell you to do that in the tutorial, we're doing it anyway. And I think I'm going to do the same up here if I'm honest. And we've got the same situation in here. This is quite dark in here. And it's kind of like underneath and along this edge. This is the longest I've ever spent on a duck's foot in my entire life. Oh, how very odd. So let's move on to the other one. So I'm going back here now. I'm going to do this one a little bit quicker, I think. There doesn't seem to be a lot of yellow here, which is fine. And I'm going to pile straight in with some of the yellow, some of the orange. And just using this smaller brush again. Let that dry out a little bit. And another little bit of the orange. I'm just completely making this up as I go along now. And you know what? I'm having the best fun. And I'm just going to kind of blend all of this out. I'm going to let that dry and I'll go back in and just add in a few little bits, I think. This should be a really gradual change though. I see they made that seem really easy. Like, yeah, just paint the legs, everything will be fine. And that is by far the darkest part. Okay, now according to this, I am on step 6, which is the last step, and they didn't talk about this part at all. And they didn't go into any detail about quite a lot of things actually. There's a lot of sort of extra lines and stuff here, so I'm just going to wing this. I am actually just going to wing this, and that's a very appropriate turn of phrase. It is not lost on me, because there's quite a lot of blue. This sort of bluey purpley colour comes back into play here, and this features quite heavily here. Okay, so I'm back to this really washed out pink colour. And I think that is way too much. I totally want to soften out these edges as well. Just on the parts that I have done. And across the body here, again, this is like so diluted it's unreal. So I think the main takeaway from this tutorial is that when you are painting white animals, you want the absolute lightest value of whichever colour you're going to use. And I seem to have leaned towards pink, which is quite interesting because it's not normally something I would go for, I would gravitate towards. And I'm going to use some of this purple as well, but again, I am going to like water it down until it's next to nothing. And I think this is going to weirdly end up the same colour pretty much. Now maybe if I take a tiny hint of this blue and just add that in, oh there we go. And I'm kind of getting the feeling that we're supposed to be going for here, which is always nice. I'm not sure about these marks down the neck, you know, that they've put in, but I'm going to put them in anyway. I think we can safely say that this tutorial's gone completely out the window for me now, and I'm just doing what I want to do, which I don't suppose there's any real problem with in the grand scheme of things, but this is fun. I'm enjoying myself. I do think he's a bit sort of pastel and multicolour swap shop-esque, but that's okay. I'm going to pop a bit of this pink down in here as well, why not? Seeing as we've got a mostly pink bird anyway, why not? Now I'm going to have to mix up more of this sort of purpley effort because there is significantly darker lines down here and also in other areas too. I think I'll go for the smaller brush here as well. So like this part down in behind his legs. I'm going to make that much purplier. And then just at this leg here, there's these weird kind of like, you know, they've put in these marks, which I suppose will be to signify something. And then there's like a tiny hint of, I've got hints of kind of everything in at the front here, but I don't really know what that's supposed to achieve, if anything. I just feel like it should be more cohesive and less colourful, personally. I don't know, maybe it's just me. So now we've got this line, because we do need to create this line down here. And again, this seems to be like a much more concentrated colour down here. Maybe put a few layers in. And then it's kind of lighter up here, in the neck. And then we've got all, and I'm pretty sure that if you go in and watch the video, I'm pretty sure that all these steps will be gone over in much greater detail, and there'll be a bit more kind of like hand holding, shall we say. But that's just not really my thing. I'm a person, I don't really like being told what to do. Obviously, like when it comes to the basics, then hand holding is pretty much essential, and I do enjoy it and it is comfortable, but I get to a point and I'm like, yeah, you know, just let me at it, just let me do it. So that's kind of where we've gone with this today, which I find quite interesting. I don't know if you guys do, but I do. My duck has an incredibly pink behind. I'm quite enjoying it. I've clearly got something wrong with me, haven't I? There's a little bit of orange in here as well. That's too much though. Always too much. Okay, so there's a little bit of orange up here as well, which again, I just want to thin out and spread out. There's a very faint line as well around here, and I can't even tell what colour that is anymore. The truthful answer is, I don't know what colour it is. I really am, I'm just on a jolly now, I'm not going to lie. Truthfully though, I think what I've learned from this painting is that you can use really light values of pretty much any colour when you're painting a white animal. As long as they're really desaturated, you can kind of get away with it. So that's going to be my takeaway message from this today. And I would also say, right, my opinion of the supplies is very, very high indeed. I think that these are very high quality items, the paper and the paints, for sure. And I would say that if you are quite a new watercolourist, and perhaps haven't taken a sort of traditional approach to learning, such as myself, then it might be an idea to watch the tutorial video and don't just dive into it like I did. Although I have to say I'm having really good fun with this, I'm really enjoying it, and obviously once I'm finished here I will show you this next to the reference image and you can tell me whether or not I have done this justice. And I'm actually having really good fun just working from the reference image now. I'm not even looking at the instructions anymore. And this is way better fun. Such a rebel. But I'm having a whale of a time here. Just adding a bit of texture here. Again, this is just for fun, really. Okay, I'm not sure how much mine looks like the intended project. I'm nearly there now. I've just got to go back down and fix these feet a little bit. Just add in a little bit of this. Papa Jem's come in, he's been outside helping do various bits and pieces, and he's just come in to make himself some coffee, and he's whistling away to himself, singing away to himself. So he must be happy, he's got to be happy surely. Okay, I've given the indication of feet, and I think that's probably about as good as it's going to get. But there you go, let's pop this out of the way now. And there you have it, there is my duck next to the to the reference image, and in all honesty I don't think that that's a bad attempt. Clearly my duck is quite fat, but that's okay. I'm quite pleased with how this has turned out, and I've had really good fun. I've really enjoyed myself with this today. I would recommend this kit to anybody. My only parting shot is that go and watch the tutorials on the that are provided on the website if you are a newer watercolourist. And when I say a newer watercolourist, I would say like maybe less than a year and a half's experience, because that's kind of where I'm at. And although I was quite happy just to sort of wade in, oh my goodness, so many duck puns today, but it was incredibly good fun. But I think some of the techniques are probably explained better in the video, so I felt it was a tiny little bit misleading, the fact that they say they give you step-by-step instructions and the tutorial's kind of there if you want it or not. I would say these are like the absolute bare bones of instructions, which is why it's only in 6 steps. So just be aware of that if you're going to have a go, but by all means I think this box is wonderful, and if I could afford to, I would have one of these boxes every month without a shadow of a doubt. Anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I would also like to thank Daria once again for such a thoughtful and lovely gift, and I'm going to get another couple of weeks enjoyment out of this at least. So thanks for coming to hang out today, guys, and we shall see you soon back in the cave for another video. Have a great day everyone, and bye for now.